Next up, we have Novatti and Peter Cook. Welcome, Peter.
Good afternoon, all. My company Novatti is a public listed company. We're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. Market cap is about 40 million Australian dollars. About 30% of the shareholding is held out of China and Hong Kong, about 30% out of the UK, and 40% out of Australia. So right now, a fintech and financial services company with about 30% of the holding, as I said, in Hong Kong and China. As a company, we listed 2.5 years ago, primarily as a fintech company. The purpose of the listing was to allow us to essentially use our tech to create financial businesses, and that's what we've spent the last 2.5 years doing. So right now, the strongest part of our company, the strongest growth, is in financial services, international remittances, a global cash voucher business, compliance services, and settling of a lot of cross-border transactions from WeChat and Alipay in Australia. So as a company, I just guess on the thematics, we're in fintech, financial services and payments. We're very strongly focused on emerging markets in both Asia and Africa, and in fact we've just picked up our first piece of business in Latin America. A lot of the work we do is integrating to blockchain payment networks. So we've recently integrated to the Stellar cross-border remittance network, and in fact are now in the early stages of doing the same with Ripple. So we will convert some of the cross-border financial transactions we currently do on more traditional rails to working on Stellar or Ripple blockchain networks. Our own digital banking tech, we're again rewriting part of the system and converting the wallet and account structure to blockchain based. Very much exposed to cross-border commerce between China and Australia, and that's both remittances, cross-border bill payments, and shortly banking services. And then I think for the long-term strategy that brings it all together, we're very focused on the possibilities of disruption in banking licenses globally, and what's important at the moment is we're in the early phase of applying for a full bank license in Australia, and also in Europe a bank license in Lithuania. Just to go further there on why is a bank license, as an example, possible in Australia. We've got obviously banks there that are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, so why does anyone need a bank from me? I think the possibility is that the large banks, first of all, there is political and consumer will that these banks are essentially operate in an oligopoly sort of way, and I guess equally importantly, the government has essentially amended legislation such that they're positively supporting new banking entrants. Now, having said that, to get a bank license is a huge amount of work, and I guess we find every day that it's a big mountain, and the mountain gets bigger. But the window is open for us to get a bank license. We're well progressed. We've hired a banking team or some senior execs out of a couple of banks, and essentially using our own tech, our own compliance resources, our own operations team, and as a public company, our own ability to raise capital, we can achieve a new bank or a new bank license in Australia. And so what would be the focus of that bank, and why could we make money out of it, and why would it be different? We will build and are in the process of building a bank where the future consumers are essentially migrants, and which includes foreign students at our universities, new migrants, families of migrants, and very much a China and India facing bank. So, some numbers. Every year, a bit under 200,000 Chinese tertiary students in Australia. There's about 1 million tertiary students from overseas in Australia at any one time. The first new and first generation Chinese is about 1 million in Australia, heading the same way with Indians. All of the major banks say that they have migrant banking services, but actually they're pretty light on. So we can appeal to a new market segment, or a market segment that is not well catered for. And I think most importantly, migrants in any country in the world, why does someone migrate? They migrate because they want to improve their lot in life, because they're aspirational for whatever reason. So if we can be the first banking partner of a new person, we can offer them deposit services, we can offer them credit card services, remittance services, which is one of the first things a migrant does on their journey into a new country. Once they've been there for a few years, they become a home loan customer. Many migrants want to buy a business or build a business. They become a business customer. So we can appeal to that market segment in a business modelling sense. 100,000 customers of this type can build a profitable bank. So right now we have a number of services that are focused at this migrant client base. So as we build our bank licence application, we're actually building the consumers. We have a prepaid card business focused at Chinese and Indian students at our universities. We run remittance businesses, again building customers who are sending back to home countries. We are doing cross-border financial transactions. Right now we're running a portal where a Chinese student or their parents can pay bills in Australia direct into the banking system, commencing their transactions with CNY from their Alipay, WeChat, UnionPay accounts. So, interesting proposition. You have an electricity bill in Australia, you get your parents to pay from, say, their Alipay wallet, starting with CNY, and yet the bill is paid to the utility provider in Australia in Australian dollars. So, new banking licence in Australia. We're already building the consumers through our bill payment services, our remittance services, and our prepaid card services. In Europe, we're in the process of getting an e-money issuing licence, which is in Lithuania is an early stage towards getting a bank licence. We intend to have the bank licence by about this time next year. We'll then be fully integrated into the SEPA payments rails in Europe. In Australia, the full banking licence should be available to us about December next year. A restricted banking licence slightly earlier than that. So Novatti, public listed, fintech, financial services, en route to banking licenses, which is market access in Australia and Europe, already building a client base. Market cap's about 40 million, strong growth, heading towards an earnings inflection point. So we're slightly EBITDA negative at the moment, but for a fintech company, that's we've still got very solid revenues and will be positive next year. And finally, of course, bringing together bank licenses and the possibilities that brings. So the Australian Stock Exchange code is NOV. I'm at booth 15, and I guess we would say we're a low-risk way to get into fintech and financial services. Thank you very much.